Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, for hearing this very important legislation. There are critical gaps in the funding of our Washington State Oil Spills Preparedness and Response Program that must be addressed. As staff correctly pointed out, the barrel tax has never been increased to address this gap, while the changes in how we transport oil across our water have changed dramatically. And let me touch on that a little bit. In 2009, when I first came into the legislature, I was very proud to work with Senator Rolfus and others, she was then in the House, to pass legislation to create the Neah Bay Rescue Tug Program and some other accompanying legislation in the 2 years after that, which created the strongest oil spills preparedness response program in the country right here in Washington State. We were the model. At that point in time, however, all of the vessels were coming down, most of the oil was coming down into Washington State through tankers down the Straits of Juan de Fuca and into our refineries. What has changed is we have seen a dramatic uptick in the amount of oil coming into Washington State via pipeline, and then the transportation of oil on our waters has changed dramatically as well. We now see barges and ATBs, these articulated barges, carrying millions and millions of gallons of oil. It used to be that these barges typically would, come down from Cherry Point carrying hundreds of thousands, fill up a cruise ship in Seattle and such. Now they're carrying millions of gallons of oil, and they're going out the Straits of Juan de Fuca, and in some cases all the way down to Long Beach. What we have seen is a significant change in how oil is transported and no change in our oil spills preparedness and response program. The other significant issue that's come up is that through that pipeline, we now have tar sands oil coming in. Our oil spills preparedness and response program is set up not for this oil, but for other types of oil coming into Washington State. This oil sinks. It is very difficult to clean up, and our geographic response plans are not prepared. So the bill does a couple of things. What it recognizes is we need updated geographic response plans and programs so that we can properly address this. It also recognizes that our orca whale and our salmon don't see a transboundary border. What they see is a Salish Sea. And so we've got to work with our Canadian partners. And so it brings together the forum to discuss these issues with the Canadians. But the other issue it's looking at is pulling together the right people at the right time, which is right now, to formally figure out how we are going to deal with barges and barge traffic and the potential of an additional rescue tug in the eastern Straits of Juan de Fuca so that we can appropriately respond to the risks that we face. Because an oil spill in the Salish Sea will shut us down economically, and it will devastate our natural environment and most likely wipe out an entire pod of orca whale, which is what we saw with the Exxon Valdez. These sorts of risks are unacceptable and unconscionable, and I hope that we can move this bill forward and supply the funding that we need for our oil spills program and take the first step in what hopefully will be multiple steps in upgrading our oil spills and response program. I stand for any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the sponsor? With that, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.